Hello, my name is Thomas Reed. Today I will be reviewing the movie adaptation of the film Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. The novel was written by Mildred Taylor and the film was directed by Jax Might. One thing that I think is important to know about the novel itself is that it is told from the viewpoint of Cassie, a young daughter in the Logan family. As she explains her experiences in the novel, this creates a very unique viewpoint that the reader is able to utilize to their advantage to better understand what this family is going through in this time. After reading the novel and then watching the movie, my conclusion is that the movie can either be bad or it can be good, depending on what you're trying to take away from your viewing experience. On one hand, I think the film does a very good job of depicting the racial tension during this time period in the state of Mississippi. Through special effects and other things that are used by the director Jax Might, the viewer can really get a good image of the conflict between white and black families during this time period. However, on the other hand, if you're trying to understand the story and the actual plotline that was written by Mildred Taylor, I would really not recommend this movie at all. This is true for several reasons. One being that the movie picks up in a very weird space in the book. It kind of leaves out a lot of foundational information that is set up by the novel in the beginning, and I think if you're just jumping into the movie right there, it becomes a little confusing and the plotline may not make as much sense to you because it just seems like you're going right into the movie without any background information. And secondly, as mentioned before, the novel is told from the viewpoint of Cassie, and since the movie doesn't have this, you lose a lot of the foundational things that I would say that I liked in the novel. So when you're watching the movie, you're not having that same viewpoint that Cassie has, therefore you're not really understanding the book as a whole, I would say, in my opinion. With this being said, today I'm going to be specifically reviewing how the movie portrays certain main characters, and we're going to also be reviewing the director's style. Regarding how the film portrayed the main characters in the story, I would overall say they did a pretty good job. However, my biggest gripe is with the portrayal of Cassie, who, as I mentioned before, is a stronghold in the novel, but not so much in the movie. So in the movie, she's seen as more of like a quiet, level-headed, not really willing to fight back kind of person. But in the novel, she's actually quite the opposite. She is sassy, she's quick-witted, and she is prideful, and she's ready to snap at anything that is said against her. And I think that the movie really lost this portion of Cassie's character, and I think that was a lost opportunity by the directing cast. For example, in my opinion, I think we only get a true taste of Cassie's character once in the film, and that's when she's being asked about her experience in the town of Strawberry. Now, keep in mind this is after Lily and Jean had pushed her off, or Mr. Wallace had pushed her off of the sidewalk, and then she was forced to apologize to Lily and Jean. So when inquired of this situation, she exclaims, "I hated it." And I think this was really the only time in the movie where I felt like I saw Cassie as I had seen her in the novel. And in my opinion, I wish there would have been more of this. Cassie's character and her response to certain situations was one of my favorite parts of the story. And I feel like without this, the overall plotline and the story of Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry just loses a lot of flavor. Now it's time to go into phase 2 of this movie review as we look at the director's style. I think one thing that is very important to consider before we dive into analyzing the director's style is actually thinking about the director himself. So his name is Jax Might, and he's a white male. And as I thought about this more, I thought this might have been the reason why the movie wasn't really told from the viewpoint of Cassie. Maybe Jax Might didn't really think that he was capable of accurately displaying the feelings of a black girl during this time period. And as I thought about that more, it made a little more sense. This aside, and the novel aside, I actually did enjoy the director's style. I think I would describe the tone in the beginning to be a little slow and a little more developmental, but as the plot thickened and more aspects got introduced, I would actually describe the tone as very suspenseful and intriguing. Also, I think Smite's musical choices really enhanced this tone of suspense. He didn't overuse music, but he used it in very specific spots where I feel like it enhanced my viewing experience. For example, when there wasn't that much music, but as music was introduced and when the music came in, I automatically knew as a viewer that this was a point of importance. Now let's talk about special effects. Now, since this movie was filmed in 1978, I didn't have too much expectations with the special effects based on the technology of the time period. But I thought the ones that Smite used were very effective in their development of certain scenes. And one of my favorite special effects was the thunderclaps. They almost sounded like a gunshot, but when they happened, you knew that something important was happening, and it just increased in my mind the tension and the conflict of that certain scene. And I don't want to give away the ending of the film, but at the end they use thunderclaps as the story is reaching a climax, and it really helps to kind of wrap up the story and get your emotions flowing a little bit. All right, it's time to wrap up our movie review on Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. So, in my opinion, I would give this movie an honest 6 out of 10. As a person who read the book and understood the storyline already, I have to say I was expecting much more. I just feel like there was so much more that could have been done, and therefore I would just say this movie is pretty average. Alright guys, thank you for your time, and keep an eye out for my next movie review.